Great, welcome in, chat. John here, staff software engineer, 10 plus years of experience. I'm the lead maintainer of Latterly.io. Latterly.io has an open source curriculum, and you can sign up for free now. It helps you land your first or next programming role and grow your social or professional networks. So social networking is a key component and a key focus of Latterly that a lot of other education platforms just miss entirely. They'll skip over the job search, the soft skills, communication, networking, things like that are so critical to actually landing the job and advancing your career. So that's why it's important that we do one of these debunking videos. And I don't do these often, but there is a statistic floating around, and it's been going around for years at this point. And that is that 85% of jobs are filled by networking. And so here's a LinkedIn article from Ed. Ed says, no, 85% of all jobs are not filled by networking. So let's dig in and let's try to unpack, how have we been lied to? Let's debunk and dispel, and then maybe learn from and adjust our strategy to make the most of social networking anyway. Is it really going down to zero? Probably not. Probably not. So where is it? And how do we best harness whatever percentage is the truth? Let's get into that. If you Google what percentage of jobs are found via networking, the most common response is that you'll see 85%. Let's go ahead and just fact check him on that. So we'll open this up in Google. According to most sources, it's 70 to 80% is this AI summary, and then the first article is Ed's article. And so actually, I don't see a lot of other results. Maybe my Google search is too specific here. Let's go for this. Still saying around 70 to 85, okay? Or at least 80. Half to upwards of 80%, 85, okay? So he seems to be in the right ballpark, right? We're seeing some varying numbers, but he seems to be in the right ballpark. My own data, based on blog article 15, on cover letters and resume tailoring, I show my own job search data with an open source CSV that you can analyze yourself if you're interested. Under an original contribution of data, my main thesis in this article is that resume tailoring doesn't give you much benefit for the amount of effort. That's my main focus in this article, but one of the things that we can pull out of here as a side effect of this study is the fact that referrals and inbound opportunities are the greatest drivers of first round interviews. In fact, in my job search in 2024, half of my first round interviews were referred or inbound. So they did not come from me applying somewhere, they came to me. And how did I generate that? Through a combination of social networking techniques and content creation. So mine would be the half, the 50%, not the 85%. And by the end of the video, stick around and I'll give you 2 Latterly techniques you won't find anywhere else in any other software engineering course that will improve your application to interview ratio by 30x and double your first round interview count. Before we get into that, let's continue through his article. So he's commenting on a study from 2015-2016, and his first comment, and he's right here, is, hey, it's from 2015-2016, and this is 2023. Now my data will be from 2024, so my data is even more updated, but let's see if we can pick out a common pattern. So he's going to say this was not a scientific survey. There was no random sampling. This was a survey filled out by whoever happened to know about it. So there's a selection bias, and this is a good critique. So if we have a survey based on selection bias, we worry about the generalizability of those results. This is why it's really important to not use a single study based on one selected bias survey, which is another reason that it is important that we cross-reference this independent study with my own data. So now we're going to have a more robust result, more statistically sound, more generalizable, and more appropriate to software engineers in particular. If the survey is asking about the job market in general, there could be, and there are likely to be, software engineering labor market effects that are specific to maybe the tech industry, maybe engineers. So how well does the general information generalize to the niche? There's often a big difference there. We want to keep an eye out for that. Ed says you can't simply claim that the results of your survey apply to all jobs, right? Totally agree. Good critique, Ed. What about problem number 2? In the original article, he says that the original article shows 4 groups of people who applied to jobs and found jobs in 4 different ways. And these are the groups: unemployed or underemployed, actively seeking, employed and actively seeking, employed and casually looking, and then employed and passively seeking, right? So the behaviors of these groups are going to be different. So we should expect outcomes to occur in different ways. And they do different things, and the survey reported that they did different things. Those behaviors were grouped into 4 categories in the original study. They were grouped into applying techniques, networking, internal job placement, and then a big other category. And here's where things get strange according to Ed. The graph in the original study showed these data points for the networking behavior in particular. So remember, the paper claimed 85% filled by networking. But even in their own data, in none of the groups, let alone the average across groups, no particular group, none of them hit 85%. They had this range of 42 to 62. Now, interesting side note about 42 to 62, what does the average of those groups look like? It looks about 50%, okay? So the 50% claim seems much more credible compared to the 85% claim so far. So where does the 85 come from? What they did is they picked out the highest networking percentage, this 62 group, and then they added the internal percentage as well. That is an abuse of statistics. That is, at best, a really bad claim. And at worst, it appears to be cherry-picked, doesn't it? So this could be a case of author data manipulation. And you could even say academic fraud, although it wasn't an academic paper. But if it was an academic paper, you might call that academic fraud. It's at best sloppy analysis, and it's at worst intentionally deceptive. And in fact, that's what Ed says, is he's going to say the original author deliberately lied. I don't know if I want to make that claim, but I'm not ruling it out. So I think we can so far draw 2 conclusions. 1, the 50% is more credible than the 85, and 2, 85 is just not true. So if you hear this statistic, that's not true. But let's take a step back. What if it's 50% instead of 85%? If 50% of my opportunities come from networking, another way to interpret that is that in the absence of networking, I would have only gotten 50% of those opportunities. So if you take an individual with no networking and then add networking, they will double their opportunity count. And that's also what my own research found. And so what we can say with that is, yes, the returns to networking may be overblown in some articles, even many popular articles, but there's still a huge opportunity. And that's the key takeaway from this video. Don't get caught up on whether someone says 60, 70, 80%, or 50%. And I do think the 50% is more likely true, particularly for software engineers. The truth of the matter is that even if it's only 50%, you're still getting a huge doubling of your interview opportunity count with social networking techniques. Stay to the end of the video. I'll give you particular techniques on how to do this social networking. There's one more problem Ed highlights. What about problem 3? He says, I'm not done. The original survey is still online. I don't know if it's online today. I couldn't find it, but it was online in 2023 when Ed was looking around. So he went and took it. And in contrast to the paper, which talks about 4 categories of behavior, the survey talks about 11 categories of behavior. So what were they doing? Were they regrouping data to get this result, or were they ignoring some data and just picking out certain bits? Why were they picking out those bits? Again, we're worried about the selection bias, and we're worried about the original author hacking the result to make it look better than true, which seems to be the case. So let's look at these 11 categories. Another note here is that when Ed took it, he was respondent number 3,520. So by the time we're looking at the bar chart from Ed, there are more data points, hundreds of more data points than the original survey, because it had sat online for more than 6 additional years at this point. So this result is going to be more updated, more statistical data points, more categories, more informative, we hope. So what are these categories of behavior that Ed is going to talk about for us? Well, what about college or career placement? Should you go to a career fair? It looks like only 2% of jobs came from that vector. Maybe not a good return on investment, maybe not a good use of your time to prepare for these job fairs in college. What about just outright applying to a job that seems to be a good fit? Not just applying everywhere, but applying where it seems to be a good fit. That is about a quarter of opportunities. In fact, the next bar, applying to a job posting, but the company found a different job that was a better fit, is another 3%. So we can group these together into the case where, as a job seeker, I applied for a job that seemed to be a good fit, and that's about a quarter of jobs. So this is a good thing we should be doing. About a quarter of jobs are from applying to places that seem to be a good fit. What about working with an external agency or recruiter? That's about 6%. So that is, I think, going to be a distinct category. Here, as a software engineer, I might reach out to a third-party agency recruiter, maybe a tech systems recruiter. And that's me reaching out, which is a different behavior than a recruiter reaching out to me. So this is not all of the recruiter interactions. This is specifically the job seeker is reaching out to the recruiter, which is a different scenario compared to a recruiter reaching out to me. And those are qualitatively different, because if we look at the reasons that a recruiter might reach out to me, it's going to be to do things with my LinkedIn profile optimization, my experience, my skill keywords, my resume formatting, my overall brand. And so from Laterally perspective, social media content creation is a way to attract inbound leads. And so when the recruiter reaches out to me, that's inbound, and it's going to be driven by different job seeker behaviors. This is really important. So I do not want to group the 6 and the 7 here. So the 6 says I reach out to a recruiter, and then this 7, more important than me reaching out to recruiters, is recruiters reaching out to me. So that's 7%. And you can see there are 217 samples versus 248. So the percentage is associated with a count of over 30. This is like a notable count. This is not like, oh, the percentage is different, but it's only like a difference of 2. No, it's a difference of like dozens. So I would group a recruiter found my resume under the umbrella of brand building, reputation building, social media content creation. What about being referred by a former coworker? So this is a social networking activity, right? We're going to get that reference because we're going to reach out to a former coworker, or maybe I'm just posting about my job search, they become aware. And this has happened to me. The coworker actually reaches out and says, hey, do you want me to refer you? Like, we're looking to fill this role. So I don't really want to draw a fine line between content creation and social networking. I want to group them together and look at the effects of both of these groups. And so we're adding the 7 and the 12. So we're at 19 so far. What about people in the company knew me and contacted me? Again, how are they going to know you? Either I'm reaching out to them, or they become aware of my content creation. They become aware of the fact that I'm looking. Or maybe they think so highly of me, they reach out even if they don't know if I'm looking. And that's a big 18% right here. Okay, so we're up to 37. Went from temp to permanent, only 2%. This is another case where you may be being sold a lie. You may be getting pitched, and this has happened to me in my career at times, where a recruiter says, hey, we're trying to fill a temp role, but it's a contract to hire. And do those always work out? No, it's worked out for me in cases, it's not worked out for me in cases. The data here, and again, this is not specific to software engineers, the data here is saying there's actually a 2% chance. So if they're saying something like, you'll probably roll over, I think you're in the right to view that with some suspicion and to kind of devalue that probability, given that the baseline expectation is only 2%. So maybe we don't want to go for those contract to hire opportunities. Okay, but that's not going to be related to social networking, really. So this could be related to me reaching out to a recruiter or a recruiter reaching out to me, but it's not going to be distinct from those behaviors. From a behavioral perspective, there's not like a different thing that we're doing besides just weighing the decision point itself. Do I want to do contract to hire? What about finding someone through networking who referred me to the right person? And that's a significant number. It's 11%. It's 11%. We don't want to isolate that. We want to loop that in. So we got up to 37 and now we're at 48. We're at 48. What does that sound like? That sounds like about half, doesn't it? Sounds like about 50%. What about an internal move? Well, that's not going to be social networking. That's not necessarily going to be brand building. You can apply brand building techniques internal to your company so that you gain a positive reputation inside of your company. And that's useful. It has value. We can see the 7% value on the paper right here. But I do consider that different than my public content creation, although some of the learnings will transfer. Finally, other method, and that's not really helpful. I don't really know what to do with that. Maybe some of that has some relation to content creation or social networking, but I don't really want to claim it. We can be conservative and just sort of ignore that. So conservatively, I think we're looking at 48% for networking, which is a really big, significant difference compared to the 85%, isn't it? But it's still a huge opportunity that you should be taking advantage of, okay? And again, this harmonizes with blog article number 15, Latterly.io on the blog. You can check it out for free now. And so what's the overall takeaway? The overall takeaway is, yes, we should be social networking. Even if some people want to overvalue or exaggerate up the benefits, and really the difference between 50% and 85% is a big difference. It's more than 50%, right? A 50% overrepresentation would be at 75, and we're over that. So do not believe this 85% statistic, particularly for software engineers. Be skeptical of that. You do need to do your own legwork. You should be applying on your own, but you should not only be applying on your own. In fact, the applying on your own was about what? A quarter, which is about what? Half of those generated by the combination of content creation and social networking. Not just social networking, the combination of content creation and social networking and applying on your own when you think it's a good fit. Now you're starting to really unlock the capabilities of the job search. Okay, so let's talk techniques. So you agree, right? You're going to look at the job boards, find what looks like a good fit, apply to them, and then you are also going to create content, and then you are also going to social network. Those are the three behaviors that I'm going to suggest to you based on, first of all, laterally historic practice that we've taught for a long time, but now validated with additional independent study, thousands of samples, reinforcing that. So we're all about evidence-driven strategies at Latterly.io. You can sign up for free now. Okay, so when it comes to job boards, and now we want to talk specifically for software engineers, not the job boards that everyone may be looking at. We're getting into software engineering world now. Blog article number 4, top job boards for software engineers. These are going to be the ones that I recommend. Hired.com, Indeed.com, LinkedIn Jobs. Those are a big three that are good for, well, Hired.com is software engineering specific. LinkedIn Jobs and Indeed are going to be general for most job families. But then here's some others more specific to engineers. Interviewing.io, really good one. Autta, great. Well Found. Really, if you're looking for a startup role, Well Found, formerly known as Angels List, is going to be a really good option. And a couple others. Built-in is cool, Underdog, and so on. I'll also call out Simplified Jobs. To my knowledge, it is not a job board, but it is a tool that will help you apply to jobs located on other boards. And another tool in this regard will be Massive, usemassive.com, also called Massive AI. So let's Google Use Massive AI. And here it is, usemassive.com. Again, this is not a job board. It is a tool that will help you use AI to rapidly apply to many jobs that may be located elsewhere. So it's a really good way to boost your return on investment to your time. So it's not going to boost your application to interview ratio, but it will boost the number of places that you can apply per unit of time. So it's going to be a good use of your time. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, what about this application to interview ratio? Given that I apply, what are the chances I'm actually going to get an interview? And that's where, let's go back to this article on resumes and cover letters. Okay? And let's look at this table. And what do we notice here? We see the constant coefficient is about 0.1. This means ignoring all other factors, applying to a job has about a 10% chance of converting into a first round interview. This doesn't mean converting to a job offer. This means converting to a first round interview. Then we need to take into consideration these other parameters. What about if it's low effort? If it's low effort, you're actually going to reduce your chances. And what characterizes a low effort application? It means you make no attempt to social network. I just hit the easy apply on LinkedIn. That's a low effort application. And that doesn't take it down to 0, but it takes it down to 0.01 or about a 1% chance that you'll get an interview. Now, we can already see social networking value in the negation of this negative. Double negative makes a positive. So just by trying, even if you don't get a referral, just by trying, we already increase our odds of converting to an interview. And this happens. If we think from a process perspective and a behavioral perspective, maybe I reach out to the hiring manager and they don't respond, but maybe they saw the message and maybe they internally to their company, they're like, hey, let's interview this guy. Even if they don't respond to me, even if I don't get a referral, I got some eyes on it. And I have this nice side effect of if they accept my connection request, and they don't always, but frequently they do, you'll grow your social network, won't you? Now more people are seeing your posts. Now you're getting more professional brand awareness, okay? So just by trying to network, even if you fail, you still collect some value there. Now, the big ones are going to be in the case that you succeed on that referral. In the case that you succeed on that referral, we want to add the negative so that the constant and then not doing low effort is now a .2. And then if I succeed on the referral, I'm now over .4. I'm like .43, .436-ish, whatever. .4, .45, something like that. This would represent a, compared to the 0-1, compared to the low effort case, this is a 40 plus X improvement. And if you ignore the is low effort factor, it's a 30X plus improvement if you're able to get the referral. So social networking is important. It has value. Even if you fail to get the referral, the networking itself has value. But particularly if you can obtain the referral, you're now over 30X better. And then combined with those inbound opportunities from content creation, you're able to double your first round interview count. So how do we get how do we reap these benefits? What behaviors should we be doing? Well, these are the answers. One, these are Latterly practices. You can join Latterly for free. Check out the open source curriculum. And this is a subsection of the curriculum we teach. One is the rules of three. So there's 3 rules of 3, but here we're only talking about one of them. And that is when you apply to a job, before you tap the application button, do a 2 business days. So if this happens on a Friday, you don't apply on Sunday, you're going to wait until the Tuesday. You want to send out LinkedIn specifically, not email, not tweets, specifically use LinkedIn DMs to reach out to at least one hiring manager, software engineer, and tech recruiter at the target company. So reach out to multiple people. In fact, you can reach out to 3 in each job category if you want. But particularly if you're able to see on the LinkedIn job post that there's a hiring manager for that role, it doesn't always show it, but sometimes it does. If you can identify that hiring manager or a software engineer on that team, so if it says that we're hiring for the DoorDash payments team, and you search on LinkedIn, you search Datadog, and then you look at the people section under Datadog, and you can find software engineers. Maybe you find one on the payments team. So if you can find someone from that team, that's going to be even more relevant. But in the worst case, just a generic tech recruiter or any engineer at the company, and their level doesn't matter. I punch up, down, and sideways. This is a different rule of 3. You can reach out to, if you're a senior engineer, reach out to staff, fellow seniors, and even juniors. Getting a referral from any of them will boost. And so we want to use a rule of 3 to network with these people, and there's a suggested template. And I'll go over the suggested template now. Basically, LinkedIn direct message, when you connect, hit the add note button. Do not do the following. Do not try to connect with them and then wait for the connection and then later send them a message. This is going to create too much lag, and by the time you get to that conversation stage, even if you're successful, the job post may be stale at that point, and they may already have a large queue of people already interviewing. So even if you're successful on the referral, and this has happened to me, I've gotten referrals to loads of places, but they already had candidates they like in the queue, and they tend to there's a bias towards processing them in order. And so what you say is the following. You say, hi, use an exclamation point. Try to use their name, particularly if they have a shorter name, like my name's John. Some people have very long names, and you need to be mindful of the character count. In that add note section, there's a limit of characters. It's 200 or 300 characters. But you say hi, and if you have space, you use their name. People love to hear their name. Use an exclamation point. We want to send a positive tone when we send this text. So I might say, hi, Jim. I'm interested in the below role. It's a very concise, takes a few character counts, Literally all of this. Do it to the letter. I'm. I apostrophe M. Literally saving I'm over I am is going to save you some characters. And every character matters in these short messages. I'm interested in the below role. And you'll paste the URL at the bottom of the message. You'll say, I'm interested in the below role, and then you'll say one thing that you did recently, an accomplishment with a metric, just like you would do in a behavioral interview. So I might say, and try to make it relevant. So if I'm applying to that payments team, I might say, at Upstart, a company that I worked at previously. At Upstart, I recently shipped X. I recently shipped some product that had a 10% bump to revenue. Whatever your smart metric is, okay? Keep it concise. Show that you have done a thing. And then say, would you be open to refer? Would you be open to refer? Use a question and use this phrase, open to refer. Do not do the following. Do not say, refer me. Don't give them a task. Ask them a question. Don't give them a task. Using questions will tend to make them feel empowered that they are contributing, so you are hearing their opinion. They might even give you a different role that they think is a better fit, and we saw that in the survey. That happened like 3% of the time or something, and that is good. If you get placed, we want to welcome their feedback. If they think there's a better fit, we want to encourage that feedback. Using questions to drive constructive feedback is a good technique throughout your career, job search, or even on the job. So instead of telling them or even asking them, like, can you refer me? Like, pretty please refer me. We don't want to take that verbiage either. This puts us in a situation where we look disempowered. We look like a low quality potential hire. Instead, we want to get their opinion, their feedback. Are you open to refer? This is not about me. This is about you. And then they have a halo effect when we ask them this because they think highly of themselves. In general, people think highly of themselves. So instead of saying, can you help pitiful me? We want to say, are you open to refer? And they think, well, I'm a great, generous person. Of course I'm going to refer. That's the nice thing to do. I'm a nice person, right? This doesn't always work. This practice, in my experience, this works about like 20% of the time. But if 20% of the time that you reach out with a template like this, you get a referral, that's a huge win. And so always couple these approaches with volume. Remember, we're reaching out to hiring managers, software engineers, and tech recruiters, and we might even do a few for each of those. So by that time, we're looking at potentially 9 people. Now that will require a larger company that has a lot of people on LinkedIn that you can search from. So this works better at a mid to large company like a Fortune 100 company. In a small company where there's only 20 people in the company, this may work less well because there just might not be that many hiring managers, engineers, and tech recruiters. But consider the case, the happy case, where you get 9. You get 9 people that you've reached out to. Make it 10 just for rounding's sake to make it a pretty number. Now you have 20% odds in 10 different cases. You're getting really good odds. You're getting overall more than 50% chance. In other words, if you do that, overall, probably someone will refer you. Even if Jim doesn't, and Sarah doesn't, and Bill doesn't, and all of these, like many people don't, you just need the one referral to reap that referral benefit, right? Okay, and then the last bit, if you can fit it in the message, the last bit is to signal that you have skin in the game, that you're willing to do work. You're not just inviting their feedback, but you're committed to taking that feedback and working on it. So after, are you open to refer, say, happy to send my resume, have a quick call, W/E, whatever helps, and say thank you, or thanks for your time. Always finish with a thank you, okay? And by saying, I'm happy to send my resume, I'm happy to send my portfolio, I'm happy to have a quick call, you're showing them, not only do I have this question, but I'm willing to do work. So if I'm willing to do work, now we're invoking the reciprocity effect. Aren't you willing to do work? And there is a standard professional norm that reciprocity will kick in, reinforcing their tendency to either accept your connection request and or give you the referral and or give you constructive feedback. Okay, and any of those are a win, by the way. You don't need a referral every time. So that is how I recommend using LinkedIn DMs specifically for this social networking. What about content creation? And the simple tip here is to engage in social media 5 hours per week. So 5 days a week, spend an hour. If you want to do it on the weekend, that's fine too. whatever you like. I recommend 5 hours per week, and you can use this time in different ways. I'm not talking about posting 1,000 tweets. Maybe you could post 1,000 tweets in 5 hours, but that's not a good use of your time. So the laterally recommended approach is to learn in public, teach in public, build in public. Even if you are early career, you can still teach in public just by reiterating what did you work on today, or by being vulnerable about the things that you're having friction with and running into trouble with. You're actually sharing with the community, and you're actually educating seniors. It doesn't feel like that, because it feels like you're saying, I'm a junior and it's so difficult, and wouldn't this look bad to a senior? No. Staff senior plus engineers like myself, we want to help and educate juniors, and we are often not aware of the current pain points. It's been 10 years since I was a junior. It's hard for me to understand the pain points for juniors, which informs what content I should be creating as an educator. And I really only know this because I have a large community and people say, hey, this is hard, can you help me? And then I help them. So you're actually educating seniors as a junior. And you'll be growing a social network of warm leads, people in the right niche, people in the tech industry that will be more likely to refer you later on if you're consistently creating this content. So I recommend you do the following. You stream once per week. Use a tool like Opus Clips to cut that long stream into short form video content. Use a tool like repurpose.io to take those short form videos from one platform, like a TikTok, and automatically repost them onto YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and so on. So you're using leverage now. And this is a great use of your time. So there, in the course of about 2 hours, I actually have dozens of posts across social media channels. And then you can use a auto posting tool like BrandGhost. This will be for text-based posting or image-based posts, less so for video. They may support video, I'm not sure. I don't use it that way. But BrandGhost, you can add questions in there. You can say like, what did you learn today? And generate some, and it will automatically post so that you can get daily reliable posts without you needing to manually do that. And it will generate some buzz, and you may learn a thing or two that way. I've certainly posted an open-ended question as a tweet or as a LinkedIn text post. Ask an open-ended question, and then people respond with things that are sometimes entertaining, a funny meme, or educational. And this is another good way for you to learn. And you're doing two things there. One, you're again building professional awareness, like, hey, I'm in tech. Just having people hear, I'm in tech, I'm an engineer. And two, when people interact with you, the algorithms tend to multiply this exposure. So that's one of the powers of posting with a question, but you don't have to post with a question. You can post a joke. You can give entertainment value. There's different ways to give value. Or maybe you are a thought leader. Or even if you're a junior, but you learned something anyway, you can just post a learning, and now you're giving educational value. So there's different ways that you can provide value to your network, and all of them will ultimately contribute to your social professional brand capital. Okay, and then the final way, and this is where your actual hours will be sunk, is engaging in small and large Discord communities. So there's various Discord communities. You don't need to go into all of them every day, but over the course of a week, go into a few of them, a distribution of them. Don't just be in one Discord server. I hope you'll join the Laterally server. You can sign up for free and join. Hundreds of people in the Laterally server, but there's other Discord servers with literally thousands or tens of thousands of members in various niches. Maybe the Reactify, if I remember that name correctly, is a server around people who deal with React, Python programmer servers. And there are other forums as well. There are the LinkedIn community pages. So I like the Discord communities, but the point is to get involved in a few of these communities. Don't silo yourself into one. Get into a few of them over and above your standard social media posts, and just post in maybe 1 or 2 of them a day, 5 or 6 days a week. And so across all of these activities, I'm hoping that you use a time box so that you can intelligently budget your available time throughout the week, spread it throughout the week. Don't overload Monday and then not post for the rest of the week. There's plenty of research, and I'm not going to get into it, that consistently posting multiple days per week will improve your overall visibility compared to overloading a single day each week. Okay, So that is the behaviors that I recommend. And if you want to learn more, here are 5 activities you can take to learn more. One is sign up at Latterly.io. You can sign up for free, and then you can optionally choose the premium option for an additional list of a checklist of items, evidence-based strategies to help you land more interviews and pass more interviews, okay? So you can sign up for free or optionally choose the premium option. You can complete the open source checklist. So if you sign up for free, you get a base checklist, and it has how to make your first project, how to make your second project. And once you're done with the project-based learning, how to create some social media content, and then job search skills are on that checklist, the free checklist, open source. Again, optionally, there's an additional premium checklist with even more evidence-based tips. Third, optionally, you can book one-on-one coaching. A lot of this generic advice, we've been talking about all job families, and then we got more specific to software engineers specifically. But you can dive deeper, and things will be often significantly different at the individual level. Maybe you're not just a software engineer. Maybe you're a back-end focused engineer, a mobile engineer, a game developer, a front-end developer. So the more specific you get, odds are that you need to tweak some of these behaviors to optimize it for your case. So to handle that tweaking with a coach or mentor, you can book coaching time. 4, you can read the Latterly blog articles. We've been through a couple of them in this stream, but there's several others, including how to approach leak code questions, data structures and algorithms, lots of other really important tips. The blog is not full of fluff. The Latterly blog is full of lots of evidence-based tips, so check it out. And I think I've said this already, but number 5, optionally sign up for premium for additional evidence-based strategies that'll help you accelerate your job search and career growth. So Latterly.io is beginner friendly, and it will scale with you to the senior plus level. So I'm a staff engineer, I've been a principal engineer. So I myself am senior plus. So it includes tips that apply early, mid, and late career. All of the above are welcome. It's also open source, so if you want to contribute, that's also very encouraged. You can write a blog, contribute a blog. I'd love to give you a shout out and thank you for the help there. That's it for this video. I hope you'll hit the subscribe button, tap like,